So you need to get clear on what you want, and then you need to tell people about it, right? Like I say in business all the time, you can't sell a secret. You can't get what you want if you don't ask for it. So you can advertise in a few different ways. One, if you're in an online group already, like Scott and I are in an online Facebook group, a couple of them. One is regional, one is just within Northwest Arkansas where we live. And in those groups, at least a few times a month, these groups typically have a tell me about yourself and your dynamic. This is where you show up. Welcome to the Open Bedroom Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kalo. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, conscious uncoupling, and creating the relationship that truly aligns for you. And I thought today I would walk you through the steps needed to have a threesome. So if you ask anybody out in the world at Walmart, at the grocery store, at the gas station, at a restaurant, what's your biggest sexual fantasy? Most people would say, I want to have a threesome. And what's interesting is the majority of the United States, at least, I would say probably the world, but the majority of humans have never had one, even people in the lifestyle. And so what I thought would be really helpful today is kind of walk through how we've managed to have so many threesomes. In fact, that's the way that we have sex. And so it's just become normal for us. So the first one that's most important is to find alignment with your partner and alignment in the dynamic that you want to move forward in. And so in this case, you and your partner need to be on the same page that you both want to open up your relationship and you want to invite a third person in. So the next thing that you want to understand is what is this person like? What do they look like? What are their what even is their anatomy like, right? Like, do we want to have a woman? Do we want to have a man? Do we want to have somebody that's bisexual? Are we interested in a trans person? Like, there's so many different options out there in terms of sexuality and the way that you show up in the world that might affect the kind of threesome that you want to have. So let's just go for the simplest one, which is typical, which is we're in partnership and we want to have a female join in. Usually that's the easiest because it feels like for some reason that women show up a little bit more bi than men do. At least these days, it's a little bit more tolerated, right? And what I've found is a lot of men have jealousy and things come up when another man is involved. So what we're going to be talking about right now is let's just say we want to have a woman in because we need to have an example that I can use for the rest of this conversation. So we've gotten really clear that we are in an open relationship that's ethical. Everybody knows what's going on. We're an ENM, ethically non-monogamous relationship. We want to have a threesome. And we want to have a threesome with a woman. Great. We can check off number one. We have alignment with our partner, or if we're solo, alignment in what we're looking for. So if you're solo, then you only need to have alignment with yourself, or you say, I know I want to have a threesome. And then you can decide what that looks like. Is it a threesome with two women, a threesome with two men, a threesome with maybe a man and a woman? Maybe it's a couple. Maybe you really enjoy the feeling of being with a couple. And so you get to choose that. Okay. Step two is advertise. I know this is not a business thing, but you're kind of advertising yourself. So you need to get clear on what you want, and then you need to tell people about it, right? Like I say in business all the time, you can't sell a secret. You can't get what you want if you don't ask for it. So you can advertise in a few different ways. One, if you're in an online group already, like Scott and I are in an online Facebook group, a couple of them. One is regional, one is just within Northwest Arkansas where we live. And in those groups, at least a few times a month, these groups typically have a tell me about yourself and your dynamic. This is where you show up and you say, hey, like for example, Scott and I are partnered. So I'll use that as an example. Hey, I'm Jen. 39 now, 39, bisexual, polyamorous, and I am partnered with my love, Scott, 41, straight, period. I wouldn't add polyamorous to him because he doesn't particularly associate with those types of labels, but I think they're important. So I would leave his alone because I don't want to speak for him. And then I would say we are in an E&M relationship and we are interested in having a threesome with a woman. And then I would close it by saying, if you're interested, our DMs are open. And maybe in between those things, adding some stuff in about you, like, hey, we love to play games with friends. We love to go to the river. We love camping. We have 2 dogs. We have teenage kids. We have a neighborhood pool that we love to share with our friends, like whatever. We love grilling out. And so you can start to find people that are in alignment with you. Like maybe you like motorcycles. And so you want to attract people in that are super into motorcycles, and you get where I'm going with this, right? So you're going to advertise. Another place to advertise is online in online dating apps. So you could do something like this maybe on Tinder. Just be careful that your main profile picture is only you. Don't go against terms and conditions or you will be shut down. My favorite app is Field. I just recently did a podcast on this. Field is a really, really good app for dating. Oh, I'll put the link to the podcast that I was featured on that I talked all about dating in the lifestyle. That might be helpful for you. It was with the Confident Swinger, who is Joe Levitt. And that episode talks all about Field and how to craft your profile. And so that will be really helpful with this part. So you're going to put on Field, again, what I just said. Hey, this is me. This is my partner. We love to have threesomes, or we want to have a threesome with a woman. Please swipe right if that's you, and let's connect. Okay. The next thing that I have, and this is the third and probably last thing, is communication is the most important thing. Communicate before, during, and after your threesome. So let's go into each one of those. The first one, communicate before. So I want you to be very, very clear in what you and your partner are looking for. What are you wanting to create? So let's say you find somebody to have a threesome with, then you're going to talk with them before it happens, and say, hey, this is what I'd love to experience, or this is what my expectation is, or this is what I'd like for us to create together. And express that. You don't want to just get really drunk and come together and sort of have sex and then hope that they want to do it again later. Like, put some intention behind this. There's nothing wrong with stating your desires. So let me give you an example. When Scott and our girlfriend and I have nights together, we always set an intention, and we set like, well, what would we like to do? What kind of experience do we want? And so I'll say like, hey, do you want to come over to our house around 6 on Friday? I'll be making dinner. See how I'm setting intention and letting her know what's going to happen. I'll be making dinner. If you could just bring a bottle of red wine, that'll go perfect with the steak that we're going to make. And then we love to actually focus on you tonight. So we have a massage table in our living room. So we are going to put you on the massage table first. And I know that you just bought some new hot wax candles that you want to play with. So we're going to do that on you. And then we are going to make sweet, sweet love to you and give you everything that you want and fill your tank up, because I know you've had a really hard week. And then if you're open to it, we'd love to invite you to spend the night. Can be that easy. If you haven't, been seeing someone for a while, then you could say something a little bit less like ooey gooey and maybe don't spend the night. So you could say, hi, thank you so much for swiping right on my profile. As you can see, we are wanting to have a three-way experience. This will actually be our first. And so we're open to seeing if you're interested in that. She comes back. I'm just assuming it's a she. They come back. And she says, or he says, yeah, absolutely. I'm experienced in threesomes, or, oh, I've always been really curious too. And then you can start to craft what that night looks like. Well, great. Maybe first you want to meet them. Maybe you're like, let's grab a coffee or a beer and see if the three of us drive. That's a safe way to do this. You don't necessarily want to just jump into a threesome. So go have coffee, go have a beer, go walk around a park or whatever. Like, see if there's sexual energy there. Feel free at that point to talk about like testing. It is okay. And you should ask, like, when's the last time that you've been tested? And then from there, move forward in your conversation of, okay, well, it's been a while for us too. Why don't we all get tested and make sure that everybody's clean? And then as soon as we get the green light, we'll schedule something. Or if the conversation comes back to like, oh, you guys just recently got tested and they just recently got tested and everything's clean and everyone feels good, then great. How about we schedule something for Friday night? Then you guys can figure out location. If you don't want to have it at your house or you have kids, get a hotel room. Feel free and confident enough to ask for them to split the cost of the hotel room. I did this a lot when I was dating. I would say like, hey, do you want me to grab an Airbnb, or I have a favorite hotel in Fayetteville that I really love that's around 100, 120 a night. If you're okay with that idea, then why don't I go ahead and grab it and you can Venmo me for half of it. Just make it part of the conversation. This is also a great place to make sure that you don't set the precedence that you're going to pay for everything all the time, unless that's your thing. But I think it feels weird to always be the one having to pay for everything or having to set up who's going to make dinner that night if you end up having them come to your house or you come to theirs. Like, this is a great time to set the precedence of like, hey, this time, why don't I go ahead and make us dinner? Or why don't I get us dinner reservations? And then just always split. Anyway, I feel like I'm wandering, but I wanted to throw these tips out while I had the opportunity, because you want to just be aware that STD conversation is normal and should be normal anyway to have that conversation. And then location and timing and who's paying for what. Have all of that at the very beginning, and especially in this first date that you're setting up, because you don't want moving forward for them to think that you're always going to buy the dinner, or you're always going to pay for the hotel room, or you're always going to be the one to host. Try to find some give and take in that. Okay. So let's say we decide that it's going to be Friday night and you are going to get a hotel room because maybe there's kids at home or you don't want them to know where you live. Like, that's fine too. So you're like, okay, great. On Friday, we're going to meet at XYZ hotel. Why don't we grab a light dinner before at 6? And then around 7:38, we can go back to the hotel room and we can play. Then you can start to discuss, what are you comfortable with? Do you have any limits? Are there any words or names that are really uncomfortable for you that you don't want me to use while we're in our play together? This is also a great time to talk about, why don't we start with some sensual play together? This first time that we're together, like, I'd prefer that we don't do anything kinky, or like no choking, no knife play, no bondage. Like, I'm just making this up, but maybe the first time that you meet with someone, you don't want to push it to the extreme, and you just want to see, like, do we have the kind of connection that we could rinse, wash, repeat and do this fairly often because it's fun, if that's what you want. For us, it is. So anyway, think about all of these conversations and the way that you want to set them up, and feel free to respond to me here through Patreon, or you can always DM me on any of the platforms that I'm on. If you want additional information or to have additional context, or you want to even kind of role play back and forth what this conversation could look like, if that's scary for you, because I feel like I could go on and on and on, but we're just talking about the pre-conversation at this point. So you've decided you're going to have your threesome. You're in it. Things are happening. How are we going to communicate during the threesome? So it's always nice to check in with your partners in multiple ways during a threesome, especially if it's your first or you and your partner haven't done this very many times. You want to check in with your partner and make sure that what you're doing is comfortable for them with the other person, that they're not feeling intense jealousy, or they're not feeling, oh, fuck, we shouldn't have done this, or they're not feeling like, oh my God, our relationship is over now that we've done this thing. So you can do a few things like have signals with each other. Maybe if one of you excuses yourself to go use the restroom, that's a signal. Or you, I don't know, maybe it's a color, maybe it's a word, or maybe it's just you whisper in their ear, hey, I'm going to need a few minutes, like, can we regroup real fast? Outside of that, you want to check in with the person that is your third that night and make sure that they're feeling comfortable with the pace and comfortable with what's unfolding, that their body feels comfortable, that the pressure feels comfortable. One thing I didn't mention with your pre-conversation is make sure that you talk about wearing condoms and safe sex and your expectations of that, so that as this is unfolding, you have everything that you need for protection there. And so just check in with each other as the night's unfolding. How's everybody feeling? Are we still feeling like we want to have a threesome? Or would we rather just snuggle with each other and watch a show? Or maybe we want to start in a way that's really cuddly, where we can kind of like let our hands roam over each other's body and turn each other on first, and then go into sex mode. Okay. Then this is really important. Post communication. So communication after it's over. You're going to have a lot come up after you have a threesome. And not every time, but in the beginning for sure. And you want to check in with your third again. How did it go? What was your favorite part of the experience? Or what things would you want to change for next time? Or is there anything that's come up for you that you want to talk about? We want to hear and hold space for you. You want to check in with your partner. Hey, partner, how did that go for you? What did you love? What did you not love? What do you want to do different next time? What did you wish we would have done to you that we didn't do to you? Have these conversations. And one thing I've learned through the BDSM and kink world is when people drop into subspace, the next few days afterwards can be really difficult. You're still kind of like in this woozy, super gentle, delicious space. And then you're like harshly brought back into reality. And it's called subdrop. I don't know that you'd necessarily experience subdrop from a three-way, but you are going to be processing feelings and emotions, and even your body might have some lingering effects from it. Like you might, as women, we might be feeling sore from all the sex that we had that night. Typically, three-way sex is different than sex with just your partner. It's longer, it's more aggressive. For a man, you know, the expectation is that you stay hard long enough, or can get hard multiple times to please multiple women if there's two women there. Or if it's guy on guy play, maybe it's the first time you've ever played with a man, and so you're feeling all these feelings like, what does this mean? Am I bisexual? What is society going to think? What would my mama think? Like, what do I think? Like, there's all these things that are going to be playing out in your mind. And so I just want you to be mindful of your partners and the state that they're in after a three-way. And also to have the conversation of, was this fun for everybody? And if it wasn't fun, can we do it again and try again? Or if it was fun, does everybody want to do this again? Because of the rarity of a three-way, it's kind of like you found a magical unicorn, you don't want to let it go. I'm going to expect that you're going to want to have it more than one time. And so this post communication is really that soft, sweet spot to make sure that you're nurturing the third person that came into your relationship, or that you're nurturing the new relationship that you're cultivating with, say, a couple that you've joined, or whatever the case may be of how you've formed three people together. So nurture that relationship together and ask for feedback. And then, assuming everybody's on the same page, do it again. Okay, so back to my own personal experience. So Scott and I only have threesomes. We don't have sex with other partners. We don't do orgies. And so for us, having a three-way is very common. At least once a week or several times a month, we have one with our girlfriend. And so for us, it's very much the communication piece that I think keeps her wanting to come back, as well as her feeling very safe in the space that we've created for her to get her needs met, for her to explore sexually with us, for her to feel completely held and to feel loved and taken care of. We have aftercare practices once we're finished, where we kind of just hold each other and melt into each other once everyone's had orgasms and we're exhausted. And it just feels so good to be in that space. So I guess I'll wrap this up by saying, I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that if you've never had a three-way, that this empowers you a bit and gives you some sort of a guide in order to go create your own very special version of what this looks like. Hey there. Did you know that I do online coaching? Yes, I do online coaching in the sex and relationship space. Some of the topics that are near and dear to my heart are open relationships. So that includes polyamory, swinging, or what we call the lifestyle. I also love conversations around online dating. We're talking Bumble, Tinder, Field, and more. And then the last thing that's really passionate and close to my heart is conscious uncoupling. That means we get to break up with people with love and respect, with dignity and hope. We get to create a life for our children that gets to be a little bit different. We can do things better than we have in the past. So if any of these topics sound interesting to you and you'd love to get some coaching from me, check out the link in the show notes or the link in my bio for more information on Coaching with Jen.